Tell me, what do you think of when you hear the words Despicable Me? Do you think of the minions doing stupid actions? Or do you think of the Facebook moms posting Facebook memes? Or do you think of a really heartwarming story about a guy who has to open up his heart to finally become a dad to 3 orphans? This is why Despicable Me is an enduring classic.
Sound with our mouths. Ready? Clink.
Obviously, at the start of the film, we get introduced to Gru and his character. He makes this balloon dog for this kid, and then proceeds to pop it right in front of him before then pushing him aside to make his way to the coffee shop, where the music sums up his character.
Watch, this is so fun to see. Oh, Despicable Me.
Gru is kind of like a failed villain in a sense, really. Because by the time we get to the lab, the only things he's really ever stolen was the jumbo TV from Times Square, a small Statue of Liberty from Las Vegas, as well as, well, the Eiffel Tower, also from Las Vegas. It gets to the point that he announces that they'll all be stealing the moon, which is going to blow the whole pyramid scheme out of the water. We'll learn who stole the pyramids in a second, but from what we can gather in this sequence, Gru is just someone who really wants to get big, and considering of how he was treated in his childhood, being neglected by his mother, it makes sense that he would want the fame and attention that all these other villains have gotten, especially the Vicious Six, a group he grew up loving as a child, as seen in Rise of Gru. So, yeah, all Gru wants to do is make it big as a villain, which is a big deal, apparently. So, he has a plan to steal the shrink ray and get funds from the Bank of Evil. Unfortunately, the bank are looking into more younger supervillains and immediately fire Gru. Mr. Peterson is a villain of the movie that people often overshadow because Vector is cool, apparently. As for Vector, he's a very egotistical moron who decides to steal the shrink ray from Gru because he freeze-rayed his head when he left the Bank of Evil. In fact, it seems like the Vector only wanted the shrink ray not to get back at Gru, but to continue his escapades. It's not even known how he even stole the pyramids to begin with. So he might as well have just stolen the pyramids from some other villain and then claimed that he did it. He's that egotistical. Overall, Vector is a really great villain, and unfortunately was the one to start the trope of kidnapping someone that Gru loves, which is a trope that will be tired by the 3rd movie. Yes, Despicable Me 3, I'm looking at you. You disgust me. Now, on to the girls. The girls, Margot, Edith, and Agnes, are a group of orphan little sisters who live together in an orphanage run by Miss Hattie, who I might as well just consider the 3rd villain of the film. Gru ends up adopting them because they bypassed Vector's fortress to sell him cookies. At first, Gru doesn't get along with them and is looking to get rid of them at any chance. But after going to the carnival, he seems to warm up to them, almost to the point that he's actually starting to like them. Even when they vandalize his family portrait, he isn't mad. These girls genuinely believed that they actually had a good home at Gru's, even though they were a bit weirded out at the start. It even gets to the point that, they get introduced to the minions. The most notable ones here being Kevin, the one-eyed one, who helps steal the shrink ray, as well as Mark, Phil, the one-eyed one, and Tim, the Kevin before Kevin even existed, because Kevin was the girls ultimately end up getting kidnapped by Vector at their dance recital, and near the end, Gru has to save them, with the minions forming a human ladder in order to stop Margot and Gru from falling to their deaths. Overall, they're really strong characters who have a very strong emotional bond, and Gru even gets sad when they leave, when Dr. Nefario calls up the orphanage to come collect them. Which is a trope that Frivolous Productions called the Shrek Hallelujah trope, where one character is sad, about to lose everything good in his life while the sad song plays. Yeah, that happens, but in the end, they have a stronger bond as a family. And it's a really happy ending that Gru recreated the dance recital that he had missed. The Minion virus all started when people weirdly became obsessed with the Minions after this first movie. It got almost to the point that it was just flooding everywhere. By the second film, suddenly toys were everywhere. You couldn't escape the yellow talking bastards. How I like the Minions, but even then I can see why people hate them. They spoke gibberish, absolute nonsense, and they made butt jokes, fart jokes, ass jokes, every type of crude humor that could be imagined, and kids ate that shit up. People, or I guess kids, loved them. Facebook moms started spreading memes about them. Got almost to the point, we had barely any merch for the first movie aside from a few arcade plushies and maybe a couple tiny figures that did include Gru, Nefario, the girls, and of course, well, the Minions. Unfortunately, when the second film came out, the Minions were no longer side characters, they became the main show. Hell, 2 Minions are taking on Gru and Lucy's missions across the film, because we just needed them, I guess. The final nail in the coffin for the Minions, or I guess the franchise's hatred as a whole, was indeed the Minions getting their own spin-off movie, with absolutely no Gru in sight. It focused on the Minions attempting to find an evil master. The Minion virus not only cursed toy stores, clothing stores, but also Illumination itself. Illumination has tried multiple times to copy the Minions, whether it be by the talking fish in Lorax or the chicks in Hop, or hell, even the bears in the Lorax. They've just attempted to recapture that lightning in a bottle that was the Minions, yet it keeps on failing. Hell, I might even say that the Minions themselves are just rip-off aliens from Toy Story. The only difference is that the Toy Story aliens are not hated amongst people, while the Minions are. The Minion hate is ultimately why Despicable Me 1 is seen as a quote-unquote annoying kiddie film, and it's more than just that. It has emotion, it has a great story, it has great characters. It's all thanks to people becoming obsessed with these little yellow tic-tac corn kernel creatures that caused the hatred of the whole franchise. It's also the same reason why Despicable Me 3 ends up turning out as garbage, because the Despicable Me franchise was no longer about Gru. Hell, they removed Gru from the title card at the start of the movie. In the first one, Gru's silhouette is seen in the title card at the start, while in the second, I'm pretty sure he's still there, but by the third, he's been removed. That shows how much the Minions took over the franchise and Illumination. They even shut down Shrek 4D to open a Minions attraction. And I'm not fucking joking. As of now, it does seem like that the Minion hate has died down, as this decade hopefully will be the Minions redemption arc, since the whole Gentle Minions phase started back when Rise of Gru came out, and even now with Despicable Me 4, people showing up to theaters dressed up as either Minions or Vector. The Minions are slowly having a redemption that was earned way too long ago. Maybe with Despicable Me 4 being better, and in fact as great as the original, maybe the Minion films, or Minions 3, could be just as good. If not better, than Despicable Me 1, Despicable Me 4, or hell, Rise of Gru. But unfortunately, till that day comes, the Minion hate groups will keep on posting hatred for the yellow talking Tic Tacs, and a bunch of obese Reddit mods will continue to speak about the Minions as if they're some sort of, demon or burden to society, even though all these characters did was exist. This was my retrospective on Despicable Me, and why it was and deserves to be considered an endearing classic. Thank you all for watching.